everybody. Welcome to the Sally Allen podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Guess what? I'm so excited. April 22nd would be our 1 year anniversary. It would be the first time that I recorded in this studio. Well, different studio, but same location. But I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for all your support throughout the year, and hope I continue to see you here. Today, we have a special guest on our show, and she said, I don't have to say her last name because I'll butcher it anyway. Her name is Ava, and she is the founder of the Salt Rooms in Las Vegas. She'll tell us more about that. She is since she's founded the Salt Rooms, she now has 3 locations. They're in Henderson, southwest part of town, and Summerlin. So she's covered all of Las Vegas. I'm excited to hear what she has to say about her business, how she got this started, and what inspired her. Ava, welcome to the Sally Allen podcast.
Thank you, Sally. Thanks for having me, and happy anniversary. That is exciting milestone. Very exciting.
Yes, and I'm glad you asked how long I've been here because it reminded me to talk about that. It's going to be our 1 year anniversary. Yeah, so you said you're a morning person. Austin and I are not really morning people. Austin is my producer. So we'll try to make this work, all right?
Oh, I'll make it fun. Don't worry.
So tell us, I know, 3 locations in how many years? What inspired you to get started with the Salt Rooms especially?
Well, that's a lot of questions. Let's start with, we started in 2014. I was a business banker back then, and I was always on the other side of the table, right? So I thought, hey, I got this. I know all about business. Not really. Once you flip on this side of the table, you realize you're completely clueless. Like, you have no idea what you're doing. But we started in 2014. It took us a minute to get going, but it took us about 9 months. I call it the inception period, right? Like from idea to opening the door, it took us about 9 months. It definitely felt very, I don't know, it was very special because I think at that age, you don't get very many butterflies in your stomach. But I still remember the feeling when I unlocked the door for the first time. So that was a very special, auspicious moment for me. So we're going on 9 years this year. And we're kind of excited about next year's, milestone as well. What inspired me, there's a wine story about it. Oh. And there's also the media story about it, right? There's several things that inspired me, right? First of all, I've always worked in the corporate world after graduating from college. And I sort of always felt this limitation and this force inside that just wanted to go past the limitation. But banks don't usually like you thinking outside the box.
That's good to know.
Least, right? They always want you to do it their way. And I knew, like, in my heart, there's so much more I could do for them. But I realized that I'm just not in the right environment to do more. And so I realized that unless I have something of my own, I will forever be capped at something, right? And so I figured I take the risk. And see how far I can go in my own, mind limitation, right? To see how far I can open that up. Of course, on a personal side, at the time when I decided to open the Salt Room, I was going through a lot of personal turmoil in life. And I just had my child. He was 6 months old. My marriage was like coming apart. It was just not very fulfilling. One of those moments where I always tell people, be careful where you're going because you might just get there.
Yeah.
I always wanted the titles and, the success and the recognition and the money. And once I hit, in my mind at that time, the pinnacle of what I always thought I wanted, and I realized there's not much farther I could go in my career and whatnot, I realized I was the most miserable. Mm-hmm. I was the most miserable. And that's when I had to pivot. I had to pivot to start feeling again, to start feel joy, to start feel those fulfilling emotions again. And so,
can I ask before you move on, why were you miserable?
Well, my marriage was failing.
Was it because of work, or it was just in general?
Do you really want to get in there?
You hit this pinnacle, and all of a sudden you're just miserable.
At that time, we were together for about 6 years or 7 years, and I realized I was just living an illusion in my marriage. And so it was very heartbreaking, right? Like I was brokenhearted at the time, and believe it or not, within 2 months after discovering that my marriage was not what I thought it was, I actually got fired. So that was even more stress to my plate, right? So this time I'm sitting there thinking, where did I go wrong? Like, where did I go wrong? Like, I thought I'm building this life, this perfect, dream, this Facebook perfect family. And one day you just wake up and you just got nothing to show for, right? You got nothing to show for. I did still have my child to show for, which I'm grateful for. He's my anchor in life and my reason to thrive. But at some point, everything you have identified with just no longer, right? You no longer have the title. You no longer have the perfect marriage you thought you had. You no longer have the status and whatever it is that I thought I stand for was no longer there. But now looking back, I realize that's the greatest gift because that was very much driven by ego, right?
Yeah.
That was very much driven by societal norms. And at some point it had to end, and it had to restructure so I could find the real me that, not the ego, not the title, not the... So to this day, I never call myself anything but the founder of the Soul Dream. In fact, me and Tammy were having a conversation yesterday. Tammy is my general manager and at this point CEO. And I said, will you be the CEO? I just want to be the founder. She found and left. Like that's
Yeah. So I want to go back to like societal norms are different in different cultures, right? But when you come to America, it's like there is a Western norms. Are you talking about those norms like the happy family, white picket fence?
I guess so. I guess what I'm talking about is the American dream, right? So I do come from a very hierarchical, structured male-female role, saturated culture. I'm Armenian, so I come from a very male-dominant society. And I believe that I would never be able to achieve 10% of what I achieved if I stayed in my country, which I love dearly. So I guess I did come for the American dream to go to college and graduate with my master's and then started a family and thinking life is going on and it's progressing and you get hired, there's no cap on titles you can have and whatnot. But at the end, it's just not about it, right? It's just not about that. It's about heartfelt fulfillment of life. It's about joy. It's about having fun. It's about helping others and finding your true passion, true purpose that really fulfills you. And it's really money, title, all of that just is a side product of that. So I just picked the wrong direction.
Yeah, I just love that, finding your true passion and your true purpose, and the money will follow, right?
Correct.
How did you find your true passion and your true purpose, which is, it seems like, what you're doing right now?
I don't know if I have, honestly. I always say I still don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up. But certainly, looking back, I've done this even in the corporate world. Helping others was always a passion, helping others grow, helping others learn, the teaching. Like I've done all of that in my past careers. I'm just happy to see people smile. And I don't know if it sounds too simple, but I feel like we just deliver smiles, right? So it's seeing customers come in tired and exhausted and tired and depressed and whatnot, and coming out of any treatment smiling, I think makes my world shine. So.
Do you have that up anywhere in the office? We love seeing people smile.
I know, but I don't. But I have a friend. Her name is Alina Ledoux. She is actually the owner of Boss Security Screens and Superb Maids. She's, force of nature. But one time she made me do this traction, and she said, "You need like a slogan, like a mission or something like that." I said, "Well, I don't know what to do."
Right.
And she said, "How about?" What do you like? I said, I just like my customers smiling. And she said, how about your goal is going to be delivering 1 million smiles by whatever day? I was like, does it have to be that measurable? So she's amazing. She always puts me back into structured.
Yeah. I like that. 1 billion smiles in like 20 years.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. If I can do that, I think I can say I'm pretty successful.
Yeah. So what was your biggest challenge, you think, starting this business?
Oh, there's so many. Where do I start, right? One, I was clueless what I'm doing. 2, I was unemployed and trying to get a loan to open a business. 3, I had no idea how to construct a salt room. So 4, I had to import all of this from, the other part of the world where they mine it. Just you name it. It was risk after risk of signing leases for 5-10 years, like on personal guarantee that I had no idea what I'm doing. Everything seemed to be so surreal and so almost unachievable. But it was very interesting. There was this force inside me and this confidence and this determination that I just knew it deep in my heart that I'm meant to do this. I had no idea what I'm doing, but I was meant to do this, and it was going to be successful. And it was very difficult because, the process was super messy, super clueless, trying to figure every single thing out. And then you see these people who are tenured entrepreneurs come and ask you questions like, what are you opening? What is it? And then you try to like tell them with all your excitement. They look at you and they say, well, good luck.
Oh.
And you're like, but I don't know. But there was something that just never allowed me to get discouraged. Yes, it was stressful. Yes, I would wake up 4 o'clock in the morning with more ideas. Yes, I would not get a night's sleep. I was still working. I had to get another job to qualify. I had to go to another bank to qualify for a loan. I had to raise my child at the same time. So it was a lot of pieces moving and going on, and I was just exhausted, but it was so fulfilling that I just didn't want to stop. There was a force that would just drive me forward.
Do you know what that force is? Like, have you experienced that before in your life, that force that was driving you?
I love that force. It is an exhausting force. I have experienced that, I want to say, 2-3 times in my life only. And it is a crazy motivation that just drives you. And it's not something I don't know. I don't think it's something I can just connect with anytime I want. But first one was when I was actually applying to colleges here, and I was just like determined to come and do my grad school here. And as much as I don't like paperwork and whatnot, but I was just like really excited to do the process, and it was a very lengthy and tedious process, and it worked. But I call it, your soul's call to action. Honestly, that's what I would call it.
Wait, say that again. Say that again.
Your soul's call to action.
Your soul's call to action.
And as rewarding and as forward driven as it is, I don't wish that to happen all the time, because it is a very, very high powered, tiring force that everybody needs, like a nip in the butt. Like you need to do this and you need to do this now. But it's also wired by passion. So it's not something you force yourself to do. You're actually excited to do it. So even when you're tired, that passion is driving you. I always tell people, a lot of people come to me and say, hey, we just moved to the US and we brought X amount of money. What kind of business can we open? And I look at them and I'm like, what are you passionate about? Right?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it doesn't matter, just like a pizza place or something. I'm like, no. So here's the thing about entrepreneurship, okay? If you don't have that burning passion inside you that wants to do this, you will never weather the storm. Mm-hmm. You will start it. It may be even successful for a second, but you're either going to get bored, it's going to be challenging, a hardship is going to come along, and if you don't have that passion to power you through those moments, you're just never going to be successful.
Yeah, I was reading a book, or I was listening to a podcast or something, but one of the things the guy said was, you have to work 5 times as hard as you work in the corporate world, or even more than that. And you have to want to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the first, I want to say at least 6 years, mm-hmm. I have not made the salary that I made in the corporate world. Mm. So I certainly traded, some financial comfort for passion, but it was so well worth it. I think I quit the bank 2 months after opening, and no, maybe 4 months after opening. And I never, ever for once looked back and said, oh, I miss making that money or whatever. Not once, because when you know, you just know. You just know this is yours. And at this point, you're not wired by money, which is why you can be successful, because you're not wired by money. You're going to do this with or without money because you're passionate about it.
Yeah, so the key is passion. If money is the driver, you're going to fail.
Sometimes, sometimes you may succeed, because I always say you can always get there. It's just mm-hmm. a matter of how you want to get there. Do you want to get there with grace and ease, or do you want to push yourself to stress or, heart attack?
Yeah. No, I like what you said, because one of the things you were talking about before is your goal is to make people smile. Your goal is to help people. And when you help people, the money will come. And when that's inverted, then if your driver is always money, there's never enough money to satisfy anyone if
There's
your
never
driver is
I
money.
remember when I was a student, I always said, only if I had $200 more every month, I would be so comfortable.
Yeah.
Then I graduated and I started working. I said, only if I could make another $1,000 a month, that would be so awesome. Then I made, way more than another $1,000 a month. And then I was like, only if I could. And then I realized that it just never ends. It just never ends. Because what happens is your lifestyle adjusts to it.
That's right.
Every single time. So it becomes a lot harder to take a step back, which I had to do about 3 times. I'm a master. Stepping back and starting over. Stepping back and starting over. So once you've done it so many times, it's like, who cares? Money comes, money goes. It's not about money. And what's another key ingredient I feel about entrepreneurship is that, and anything you do in life, honestly, that it has to be for everybody's greater good. It can't be just for your own greater good. You also cannot sacrifice you and make it somebody else's greater good. It has to be I call it triple win. It has to be a win, win, win. It has to be win for you, win for the client, and win for the greater good, or whoever the third party involved. It has to be a triple win for it to be successful.
Yeah, very, very profound. Ava, do you know, because you went from, wanting $200, $400, $1,000 more. Do you remember that time when you hit that state of contentment and it's not about the money, right? What got you there? What opened up your eyes to the
What got
state
me
of
there
contentment?
is when I just told you a little while ago, when I had it all, I thought I had it all. For about a split second, I was like, this is it. I've made it. And then everything just started coming down, right?
Okay.
Everything started failing. I was miserable, and I realized that I thought I had it. I had the illusion of that I had it. And maybe, yes, financially for a second it was comfortable. But then again, life can hit you any moment. And losing a 6-figure salary overnight was not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on top of that, going through your own personal turmoil was not fun at all. However, what that teaches you is resilience. It teaches you that you're more than what you identify with, a whole lot more than what you identify with. It teaches you that in the core, you are who you are. Nothing or no one can change that as long as you have your priorities straight. And it also teaches you to kind of have fun with life, right? Like, so what? It happened. And I had to start over. And I think I had to start over, like I said, 3 times in my life. I had to move countries and start over. I had to move states and start over. I had to move out of a marriage and start over. And in the end, you cannot bypass your destiny. You're always going to be routed to your path. It's not straight path, unfortunately, right? It's got ups and downs and burns and fires and waters to jump through. But otherwise, how else? It wouldn't be exciting, right? We're here to experience. I feel like we're here in this life to experience as much as we can. And nobody said that experience is always going to be peachy, right? It's going to be everything. You want to experience as wide of a variety of emotions and things and experiences in this life as you can, because it just shapes you and makes you who you are.
Yeah. I love your story because I can relate to it. And what's come into my mind is having the rug sometimes just yanked.
Just like that.
Just like that. From under you, it gets you thinking, what else can I do? It activates a different part of your
Absolutely.
brain.
I would never have opened the business because I was too comfortable.
Right.
I was too comfortable. Why would I ever want to do that?
Yeah. And I would have never also started my own business if the rug wasn't rudely yanked from under me and made me think okay, what next? So it's a beautiful thing when you can use the pain and harness the pain for something good. And I love what you said. I'm going to read this again. You find your soul's call to action. I just love that so much. It's just so powerful. So thank you for sharing that. Now, I know you said your background is Armenian and you grew up in Armenia. Are women, and you said you wouldn't have stand that chance, and that was a long time ago. Is your country still like that? Do you feel like women are progressing?
I mean, it's a lot better now, but it's still in its own way. It's still a developing country, so trying to start a business as a female entrepreneur, it's still not a very straight path. The laws are a whole lot better, but not perfect. And of course, it's not like the capitalism that we live in, right? It's a little different, but possible. I actually am happy to say that every time I go back, I'm excited to see more youth, doing what they love and expressing themselves the way they would love to, instead of our time we had to conform to society, right? You have to be a certain way, you have to talk a certain way. Yeah, so it's a little better now, obviously.
Yeah. So I know you just opened your third baby, as you call it.
Yes, I call it baby
right?
because it's our most intimate location. We don't want to call it the smallest, but it's the most intimate location.
What was your biggest epiphany or your biggest joy as you did that grand opening, and you're standing there, right? What was your biggest epiphany or joy or something that came to mind?
Believe it or not, you're not going to expect this answer, but I'll tell you what the answer is. After the second one, because it is a lengthy and stressful process. So I set in the intention in life. I said, you know what? I've struggled the first part of my entire life. Like, I've always hustled for things, right? Like, in a very masculine energy way, I've had to work very hard for everything I've done. And at some point, I just said enough. I said, I'm going to be in my feminine energy. I'm not going to be running after things. I'm not going to be pushing things in life. I'm not going to be rushing things in life. I'm just going to be in my feminine energy, and I'm going to do everything from now on with grace and ease. So when the idea about that location came along, it actually was a wonderful development company called True Development. And their owner is a wonderful man. So he, ever since I opened the Summerlin, he said, I want one in the development that I'm going to build one day, right? And so we stayed in touch, and years after, he said, we're ready. And so at that time, I was already sort of done with being sick and tired. Yeah. I no longer wanted to be sick and tired anymore. Yeah. And so I told him, I said, look, Tim, I said, I would love this, but I really don't want any part of construction. So if it's not going to happen with my minimal intervention, I don't want any part of it. And he was so nice enough to say, I will give it to you turnkey. And so he took all of that burden on him, and he built it for us. So we literally just went and cut the ribbon and had some champagne. And it was just, I mean, I've helped with the process, I've helped with the design and all that. Obviously, I was involved, but like in a very feminine energy way, right? Like not in like, let's push it, let's rush it. No. And what I've learned, the epiphany I got from that was that when you set an intention in life and when you stick to it, right? You don't compromise it. You don't say, oh, from now on, I'm going to do this. And then, oh, no, it's okay. How about this time? We just let it slide. We do not. When you set an intention in life and the way you want to live your life is the time where you don't compromise on your, we call it standards. I don't like that word very much, on your preferences of how you want to be and how you want to live your life. Because once you do, it becomes very clear what's not for you. And that if you can just a little bit, if you can tame that FOMO, right? Yeah. Because that's usually what gets us, fear of missing out. Yeah. If you can just tame that for a second, you will understand that what's yours will never pass you by. It will never pass you by.
Man, you're dropping such wisdom here today. Thank you. That's just speaking to my soul.
Mic drop.
Yeah. That's speaking to my soul. So thank you. Thank you. So 2 questions before I forget, and you can answer them in any order. Your feminine energy versus your masculine energy, because I heard you talk a little bit about this. And was there a time when you were just channeling that masculine energy because you felt that you need to, because of the environment you were in?
I mean, there's a time and place for hustle.
Yeah.
I will not lie, at some point in your life, you're going to be in your masculine energy and do things, a woman shouldn't really be doing. But unfortunately, we have gotten to this era where we have emasculated all the wonderful men. And we have taken upon all of their responsibilities and accolades, right?
Yeah.
So now there's nothing we can't do that men can't do. Aren't you proud of that? No, I'm not. It is not fun. You know, I used to think that way. I used to pretty feministic in my views. And then as I grew older, I realized that I do not want to do a man's job. In fact, I just want to be a woman. I want to, you know, not that I enjoy the process of getting nails and hair done, but I just want to be in my graceful, soft, receptive energy. Right? And to do that, you can't go hustle and come back be that. You just can't. It's just, you know, I always say once you start the train and it starts going fast, it's very hard to stop it and get off the train. Right? It's sort of a momentum. You build the momentum to be in your masculine energy, and it's like a force that drives you. And when you can't just like throughout the day stop it, get off, and get on and start it. It's just not very. I call it imbalance, right? It's kind of an imbalance in you. But when I say feminine energy, I don't necessarily just mean you go do your hair and makeup and, you know, you kind of sit there and look pretty. What I say is the softness, the receptiveness, like the not pushing, forcing, running after things in life and allowing things to come to you and staying open to receive it.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Thank you. The next question I was going to ask you, and I can dig into that more, but I'm looking at the clock. The next question I was going to ask you, because I love what you just said about the masculine versus the feminine energy, and to understand that a little bit more. I'd love it sometime for us to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll come back next week.
Yeah. But the next question I wanted to ask was, what would you say to young entrepreneurs starting their business? I know you said the key is passion, but what other encouragement would you give them in terms of like what they can do, how they can prepare themselves?
I think I said that during the event that you attended. Honestly, those are words not by me, by Richard Branson, and he actually has a book titled exactly that. Screw it, let's do it. Start now, start early, fail as much as you can, and learn from it. Because the more you fail, the sooner you start, you will be more prepared for your next venture. There's never a failure. There's a funny quote I always say. It's actually, this one's mine. And I think I said it with a glass of wine at a speech when I was making for, one of the women's events. I said, we come to this world with a purpose and a budget. So don't worry about failing because it's included in the budget.
Wow. Are you dropping bomb or are you... We come to this world with a purpose and a budget. Don't worry about failing because it's in the budget.
It is. Because you have to fail. Otherwise, how else would you learn? Yeah. I mean, I'm very blessed and thankful and grateful that my business didn't fail. But I cannot tell you how many failures I had along the way in the business, right? Like I've tried this, didn't work, try that, didn't work, try that. And so the other day, Tammy said, I want to try to make soap and call it a Buddha. Like, I was like, do whatever you want. I'm just happy you have an idea. Let's just go do it, right? Let's do it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We move on. But just recover quickly. Don't get attached to things. Don't try to hold on to that idea if it's no longer work. Don't torture yourself. Give it a try, move on to the next one. Give it a try, move on to the next one. Unless you're feeling the burning passion inside, there's a fine balance. When I say this, a lot of people will say, but what about determination, sticking to it, resilience? Mm-hmm. There's a fine balance between holding on and letting go, right? Mm-hmm. You hold on to something that you know if you work hard on, it's going to be successful. You let go of something that, you've tried so many times and it's just not moving forward. Maybe that door is just not meant to open. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay to let it go. And if you think it is, it may just come around another time. Maybe it's just not time yet. So there's divine timing for everything. Don't rush things. Don't force things. Yeah. We never want to get there fast, okay? Because we all know what's in the end.
Yeah. Let it ride. Let it go. Yes. Yeah. So this was awesome. I can't believe how quickly our time went by. You're such an amazing guest and speaker. Yeah.
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. What's a takeaway for our audience today?
you definitely need to listen to this podcast because, last week I think I saw Camille on this, and
Yes.
another very, very inspirational woman who I'm having lunch with this week. I can't wait. And, I just love the idea that women come together, brainstorm ideas, empower other women. It's like such an avalanche snowball effect that is very, very necessary, because these days I think they've done everything to dissect the society and separate everybody from each other. So anytime I see somebody taking an initiative to bring people together, bring especially women together, it's just so empowering and heartwarming for me. My heart just really lays in that women empowerment space.
Thank you. And we need so much more of that.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for being a driver of that and being intentional. My takeaway is, I'm going to say it again, know your soul's call to action. I just love that so much. And with that, it's a wrap. Thank you again for being a guest on our show, and we want to thank our listeners.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.